The debate about the nature of fiction reaches back in the Western tradition to Aristotle's Poetics. Poetry, Aristotle said, is not a matter of rhythmical arrangement of words. It's a matter of fiction. And fiction is an arrangement of actions linked by necessity or verisimilitude. To what extent, poetry is more philosophical than history, since history deals with the cas et caston, the particulars, one thing after another, the succession of the things as they happen in their particularity, while poetry deals with the whole, the casolon, the concatenation of the events as they could have arrived, according to the causal links of necessity or verisimilitude. We can sum up the opposition either the empirical succession of individual facts or the construction of a causal arrangement of events. This setting up of the issue has a double implication. The first one is a poetical one. The exemplary form of poetry is the drama, with its acting people giving flesh to the causal connection. Conversely, one form of fiction will remain outside poetry or on its fringe, the novel, which is a form of fiction where events succeed one another at random. The second implication is political. The opposition of two forms of connection between events is an opposition between two forms of life. There is a form of life that fits the condition of the whole, the casolon. It is a form of life of the individuals who conceive of great projects and set out to achieve them. A form of life allowing a dramatic scenario of shift from happiness to misfortune and from ignorance to knowledge. Conversely, there is a form of life confined in the universe of the particular, the catechaston. It is a form of life of those who live in the mere time of birth, reproduction, and death, which is also the time of the everyday. So there is a strong connection between the causal logic of the plot and a hierarchical distribution of positions. Verisimilitude is not only about the effect that can be expected from a cause, it is also about what can be expected from an individual living in this or that condition. When the champion of modern fiction equates the logic of the plot with the constraint of tyranny, it is not only by way of metaphor. There is an original connection between the perfection of the causal plot and the character embodying the tyrannical power of the will. Aristotle had already made the story of Oedipus the tyrant the paradigm of the fictional plot. Well, in spite of Nietzsche, modern fiction begins with the end of tragedy. In the name of life, Leben, modern fiction bids farewell to tragic action. It bids farewell to the destinies of the princes, but also to the perfection of the networks of causes and effects, creating verisimilitude, and to the demonstration of the separation between two forms of life. Life doesn't know of such a separation. Life appears as a new stuff of fiction, a new stuff repudiating the old tyrannical or hierarchical logic of action. This common fabric of life is now meaning at the beginning of the 19th century, of course, is now best expressed by two genres which were formerly on the fringe of art. One is lyric, that lays claim to be the proper language of life, the one able, as Wordsworth stated it in a well-known manifesto, to take up the particularity of modest incidents and situations of common life, and to trace in them the primary laws of our nature. Poetry thus replaces the conventions of causal connection by the experimental investigation in a specific state of those laws of the association of thoughts in the human mind, which are, according to David Hume, the fabric of everybody's experience and the truth underpinning the uncertainties of causality. Now there is another genre, the novel which tells events as they fall without piecing them together strongly by the links of necessity or verisimilitude. The collapse of the old poetic hierarchy seemed to put things upside down and to give to the novel the supremacy which formerly belonged to the tragic poem. When the princes or the tyrants are dethroned, new characters pop up, characters representative of the declining classes, the new masters of society, or the heretofore invisible people of the lower classes. New types of plots come to the fore, for instance, those showing the rise of plebeians conquering high positions in society. And a new word appears to be a store of innumerable plots, society itself, which is now the stage of a multiplicity of expectations, interactions, misfortunes, tragedies or comedies, but also the visible manifestation of a new network of laws, more coercive than the whims of the kings or of the gods, with which the old playwrights are to compose their plots. The novel seemed to be the genre in which the science of making plots could exactly coincide with the manifestation of the truth of social laws. This is still around 1940, the very beginning. The new conquering genre of the novel appears to host the force that is bound to devour it from the inside. The host is a new genre, the prose poem, the expansion of the lyric in the field of prose and of prosaic life. The prose poem substitutes for the narration of actions the capture of the little scene, which allows the reader to grasp a whole individual and social destiny in a snapshot. For instance, with Baudelaire, the gaze of two children on the splendors of the fashionable cafe, or the modest and melancholic attitude of a poor woman listening to a concert in a public garden. Life appears to be more present, more deeply expressed in the silent and inexpressive look of an old destitute man on a game of balls, that in any combination of events provoked by the interplay of competing social interests. So as soon as the 1830s, 1840s, it appeared that life is not like this. What made Joseph Conrad's novel the turning point in the history of modern fiction is his ability to stage the tension between the ternary rhythm of the Flaubertian sentence that he faithfully took up and the logic of the plot as a pursuit of definite ends by a character. What was enveloped in the lazy life of Flaubert's anti-hero, Frederick Moreau, bursts out since the first moment of the adventurous life of Lord James. It appears that the relationship between the poetry of the magic monotony of existence between sky and water, and Jim's plot of heroic action, this relationship is properly the relationship between truth and lie. The vibration of the phrases transcribing the microsensory events now serves to invalidate the plot that leads the characters to go through either the softness of the sky, the languor of the earth, the bewitching breath of the eastern waters, or the rioting invasion of soundless life ready to sweep every little man out of his little existence along the Congo River. The logic of the plot, thus, clearly becomes the logic of the lie of action in relation to the truth of life. Line after line, the lie is denounced by the very movement of the phrase. But the truth of life has its flip side. The knowledge that the lie is necessary for the individualization of life. So the narrative which shows phrase after phrase the lie of course mission ends up in the indistinction of truth and life. Again, the sensory halo of truth ends up serving the lie of the plot.